Hello everyone, welcome to an update to the Refinery Priority tier list. This time we'll be looking at May, Bowie, Selena and Baraka. So, as you can see, some of them are not too kind, mostly Bowie and May, but let's start with the most underwhelming one, which is May's Refine. So, the Refine itself is fine. The base effect is a bit of a problem. I don't typically rate tome based on their effects. However, at least the base tome, or the base weapon in general. However, in this case I will, because there is another character that just has the same Refine, and as you can see, Odin is 2 whole tier above her. This is because the weapon Refine works off the main effect perfectly. So in May's case, she gets 6 attack when she initiates, and that becomes 12 attack and 6 speed with the effect of the Refine. And then you have Odin, that basically gets the Refine off, and that basically is 18 attack and 6 speed, which works on both player and enemy phase. Not to mention, Odin has a better speed stat, which is the most important stat if you're going to be a nuke. Unless you're a unit like Ophelia and Sonya that can just do instant AoEs, which is not the case with May. So you're left with a unit that's completely inferior to Odin, because Odin also has an easier time hitting Desperation because he actually has a death stat. May's death stat of 16 is unimpressive to say the least, let alone the very unimpressive 35 HP she has on top of it. A whopping 51 bulk, if you will. Yes, you can combo the attack speed link with a def res link, which is coming from Sigrun, which, believe me, that's going to be a rant for another time. But at the end of the day, why would you care about buffing every stat by 6 and only getting an extra 6 attack on initiation, when Odin can basically get 6 across the board to everyone while also getting 30 attack? Yes, it is true, May's attack is higher than Odin's base attack. However, this does not really matter in the grand scheme of things, because you'll be going to go and pick anything but attack plus for May down the line, whereas Odin you'll pick attack plus, so you're only 7 points behind in attack. So already there, that's, that's fairly iffy. But then you have the fact that, there's an extra 18 attack that Odin's Tome gives to Odin, which May just cannot get. And keep in mind, I'm considering May's Death Blow working also on enemy phase in this comparison. And suddenly you're looking at Odin having more attack, more speed, more def, and slightly less res, and more HP. So I'm very hard pressed to suggest to anyone to be refining this weapon. If what you want is a mage that can provide buffs and actually gain from those buffs, Odin does everything better to this unit. I'm sorry, but that's just kind of a fact. Everything she does, Odin does better. You want to have a full stat increase of +6 across the board? Odin does that too, but he gets more damage. You want to just have a damage dealer? Odin gets more attack overall and also a speed stat worth mentioning. So you're kind of just in this weird situation of, yeah, it exists, but don't bother. It's kind of funny considering Odin is such an old unit at this point, and his Refine is so old also at this point, but it's still so much better. Moving on to Bowie, yes, I literally did not make a build for May because at this point I can't find any reason to run May over Odin. You can't even say like, ooh, well, Panics can fuck you over. Yeah, Panic also fucks up May over because she also relies on buff to really have any kind of purpose. Your point? Sorry. Anyway, moving on to Bowie. Now, Bowie is very close to be a really good Refine. However, getting a close counter effect on a unit with no res that doesn't work against dragon, which I guess is a reference to him being scared of dragons and all, is not bad. It's not bad until you realize one thing. The base effect, yet again, just drives you in the fucking ground. So they decided to go out of their way to take an owl effect, which was perfect for Bowie. It was the one way he had to fix his attack and speed, while also giving some kind of res and, you know, embellishing his defense, which was his main trait. Right? It was that good. It actually made his speed workable, it made his attack workable, his res wasn't exactly workable, but nowadays with all the extra buff that we have, we can actually run quite a few things to make it work. As a matter of fact, I showcased a set that he ends up hitting over 45 defense and res, while also having 41 speed, while also having like almost 60 attack, if this was this very fucking tome, with an Altom effect as the base. So you have to realize someone basically sat down and was like, okay, so he has an Altom. This is basically the tome everyone uses on him because that's basically the best option he has. How about we switch that to a Raven tome? Why? So yeah, they decided to switch a perfect option for the character that the character is entirely built around, that the entire intent of Ground Owl was for him to actually function as a unit. They took that away to give them a tome that doesn't even do shit for him. Let me put it this way. What does Raven Tome give you when your second effect is close counter against melee foes? How many colorless melee unit that doesn't hit the rest stat exists? There's Veloria, there's Kangas, and there's Lian. That's it. Those 3 units are the only thing where both effects are working against the enemy unit. This is how brainless of a refine this is. The refine is good. It's just the base effect doesn't work with it whatsoever. It might as well be a blank effect and it would do the same thing. Yes, it may be good against certain bow units, but he doesn't really have the speed to double, which means he has to run quick riposte. Because he runs quick riposte, he can't run no C disrupt. Or if he runs both, he actually ends up losing on a bond skill. Because he loses over bond skills, he ends up having very mediocre stats. Like, it's just a mess. It's just a mess. Imagine if that was an Altom instead of a Raven Tome. Okay, so you can just consider 2 characters next to him. His attack would be 33, so 47 with the weapon. With 31 speed, you'd probably go with speed plus for 34 speed. A buff pushes that to 40. Merges pushes that to 44 speed. Okay. Okay. 51 attack, 44 speed. You can still run a bond skill because you have so much speed you don't need quick riposte anymore. You see where I'm going with this? Actually, he hits 57 attack because I forgot the attack buff. So 57, 44. And then you can run double bonds, like attack res bond 4 with attack res bond 3 as the seal. Suddenly you have an extra 12 res from this, 4 res from the Altom. Hey, you're looking at 40 res already. You see where I'm going with this? You actually end up having a character that has 40 def and res. With 44 speed and 57 attack. Oh, actually, because of the attack res and attack res again, that 57 attack would be 69 attack. I'm not saying that, you know, every refine should be the best thing ever, but this is just common sense. The Altom gave him just that extra push he needed for his speed to be at a respectable stat at plus 10. It also pushed his attack a bit higher. It also pushed his def to be better. It also pushed his res to be better. And with a close counter effect, You want those stats to be higher, because if they're not higher, you're getting steamrolled. There are plenty of units that would steamroll it this way. And that way, the fact that he has a drawback that dragons are not getting any close counter effect against them, that drawback would make sense. But instead, they kinda decided not to do that. It just boggles my mind. So, because of this, it really just limits you into one set, which is this set. Quick Riposte, 2 bonds, give up on No-See Disrupt because you just don't have the space for it. Because if anything, even if you had No-See Disrupt, your res would be too low, your speed would be too low. So as a result, you can't really go for it. It's just that awkward. So as a result, you just kind of want to buff that attack in depth and make him a range tank that are like archer daggers, and also a melee unit tank, which to some extent he can do well because he hits res. At least he has that going for him. This build basically pushes his attack to 66, his defense to 52. The speed is 37, which, you know, if you did not want No-See Disrupt, you could also be running another well-known skill such as No Follow-Up. But, again, his speed is a bit too shabby for that thing. It's infuriating, if I'm being honest. It's very infuriating. Because, for example, if you run no follow-up, you need to run Quick Riposte in the seal slot, you lose 5 attack, 5 death. Because your speed is not good enough. You could run attack speed bond, and to some extent that could work with a speed plus IV, but then you also still lose bulk. It's awkward. That's the best way I can really describe the Echoes duo this time around, which is rare. I'm gonna be honest and say, as far as Echoes goes, I believe this is the worst refines we've got for them. Before that, the worst refine was Claire, and Claire was no slouch. So that gives you a bit of an idea. It's definitely weird to see Echoes getting bad refines, especially Bowie and May, characters that really needed them. But I suppose this is where we are at. Moving on. Let's move on to Selena. Now, Selena has this awkward cliff effect, where you don't want to have too much attack, and going attack plus at plus 10 will give you problems. If you go attack plus with this weapon, with buffs, you will typically end up hitting too much attack. Because at plus 10 you'll be looking at 55 attack. 55 attack means that anything with 57 or less attack, you do not get the 3 across the board. And the 3 across the board can be very good in giving you some kind of bulk. You have 2 ways to go about it. Either you completely ignore that effect, which is fair, and because at the end of the day having 4 attack more reliably and potentially having 3 attack as a bonus depending on the unit can definitely be helpful. Or you decide to build around it and instead build onto your bulk. Here's the set I actually suggest. This is building around the bulk. Keep in mind that bond skill, brazen skill, any type of skill that only gives you stat in combat will not matter when the attack check is performed. The way at start of combat works, and I know I'm probably boring people when I'm explaining this because I've explained this quite a few times. The at start of combat close means your attack on the field. Any points of attack that are given in combat from drives, from brazen, from bonds, they are completely ignored. So for example, on this screenshots, despite having attack res bond, the attack that's taken in consideration for the check for Selena's blade is 51, which means anyone with 54 or more attack basically gives me 3 across the board. Selena always was a balanced unit that requires merge to really work as a unit. So actually getting 3 across the board is fantastic for her. The speed is kind of irrelevant more or less. She does go from 45 to 48, and 47 is the just number that you want, so the 3 speed is not completely wasted, but it's not that great either. It's mostly the attack and bulk that you're looking for. So essentially, to put it simply, if Selena's blade procs, you're looking at 49 defense and 49 res. You end up getting 2 charge also. If attack smoke procs, that bulk goes up to 56 in both, essentially. And more importantly, Ruptured Sky is there so Steady Breath can proc and proc it immediately. After all, one of the best set that you could run with Selena before this weapon was a cooldown -1 set with Slaying Edge and Bonfire with Steady Breath. It is still a fantastic option to run Steady Breath with Slaying Edge, which is one of the reasons I'm kind of iffy on this weapon, but the plus 10 damage that you get on special from Selena's blade makes up for it for the most part. And on top of that, you have armored effectiveness, which is always welcomed. So at the end of the day, you can push your attack to 59, your bulk to 49, which is really solid, and as well 48 speed depending on the situation. And Ruptured Sky, typically if you're going to be fighting against people with high attack because of the weapon, then that's a good option. Keep in mind, however, attack smoke can interfere with Ruptured Sky and also Selena's blade. So as a result, attack smoke can be a bit awkward, and if you feel like that's going to be too awkward for you, Death Smoke is a good option as well. No follow-up is there to make use of your speed for obvious reasons. And yeah, this build basically just... You're meant to basically fight with extremely high attack enemies, so you get the 3 across the board. Which basically push Ruptured Sky to doing over 20 damage per proc, which is fantastic. She's meant to be an enemy phase unit. She's not going to be fantastic in A for raids. No red tank is, just because Ophelia is such a pain in the ass. Though blue is an even worse color than red, I'd argue, for AR. Still, while I do say this, she's a solid unit for Arena, for PvE, and so on. So yeah. Moving on now. That's why she's S-, by the way. Next up is Baraka, who I do consider to be slightly better than Selena, because the weapon actually does do everything that Baraka really needed. It is less interesting than the refine I ended up coming up with for Baraka, but I suppose that's just how it is. So, Slaying Edge, or Slaying Axe, sorry, has the base effect, which is great. Hey, at least that one did not change for something random like Raven Tome, am I right? Fucking killed me. At start of combat, if unit's HP is over 50%, which you're meant to have over 50% HP anyway, because Quick Riposte requires a 70% or a higher HP. Besides, she's also meant to be a tank, so it works well together. Inflicts attack -4 on foe during combat. This is what I meant by this is the kind of thing that Lucas should have gotten. Attack -4. Like, instead of getting 4 attack and 4 defense, just do attack and death -4 on the enemy. Because that basically gives them 4 attack, 4 death, and 4 res. It basically gives them 3 stats worth of stats instead of only 1. But, moving on, so the other effect is Guard. So you have a Guard effect that works at 50% HP or more. This is phenomenal for her, because the main problem Baraka really ran into, okay? The main problem that Baraka really ran into is specials. If she ended up taking too long to kill something, the enemy would end up proccing a skill and therefore killing. For example, a Brave Archer would be fighting her, and you'd be just fucked because of Luna. Here it completely shuts down Luna, so if you have something like Iode's Shield, it completely shuts down most Archer for the most part. Which is fantastic, it's very helpful for her. And the -4 attack doesn't hurt either. Especially considering you can do a build like this. Oops. Which is a build that's more about mixed tanking. So, especially with attack res 4 now being a thing, it was not a thing at that moment, but here it is. You're basically looking at equal def and res with attack res bond 4. So you're looking at 47 def, 47 res. However, the weapon removing 4 attack on your enemy pushes both stat to 51. I think you get the idea here. So even if you're dealing with dragons, they don't tend to do too much damage unless their name is Fallen Corin, which is a piece of shit that should not have ever given... should have never been given birth. But, you know, that's just typical stupidity from IS on that one. Still, for most dragons, she'll be able to shut them down. Legendary Tiki will absolutely be completely shut down. Even if you're dealing with, of all characters, Legendary Tiki, typically Legendary Tiki won't be able to do any damage to Baraka because of 51 reds and color advantage. And on top of this, because you have color advantage, and, you know, both bond pushes your attack to 67, it pushes your attack to 80 against her, which means you still one-round KO her 90% of the time without even a special, which is one of the problems with Legendary Tiki. She will shut down your specials. To some extent, you can also deal with Fallen Tiki despite Special Fighter, which is also a good option. So all in all, it's a very potent refine. It also shuts down most thing like Bolt Fighter. They won't be able to proc anything out of that. Unless it's something like Ruptured Sky Brave Hector with Bolt Fighter for some reason. Which, I mean, that would go... No, that would not even go true. No, it would because of Malted. But even then, like, you get the idea. It's not that consistently consistent, and who the hell would be doing this with their Hector? I just don't get it. So, yeah, it's overall a very strong refine. The guard effect was something a lot of people were running on her, and that's why they were running something like Warding Stance 4, Steady Stance 4. Now they have more freedom. They can run any kind of buff they really want to run on Baraka, which is fantastic. It really gives her a lot more versatility, and also can help her fix her attack somewhat, like I said, with attack res bond 4. If you do not feel comfortable with a mixed tank set, just run attack def bond twice. No surprise there. It should push your bolt to 61 defense, which is, at that point, you'll need to be red to do any kind of damage unless you're a dragon. If you're a dragon, you're going to sustain quite a bit of damage regardless. But yeah, other than this, I suppose that's all I had to say about the refines. All in all, despite the Echoes couple being absolutely ruined, for the most part, just because they cannot understand how to do base effect. I don't understand why they changed the base effect for Bowie. May I can kind of understand because she's more of an aggressive unit, and it's a bit more awkward to just initiate while having an Altom active. But Bowie, I don't understand. It is so dumb. It is so dumb. Oh well, how depressing. That said, Baraka actually got a good refine, and for like all of 2 Selena fans, well, there you go, you have a good weapon. I suppose that's all I had to say about this. Next video should be talking about Choose Your Legend. I'm sorry that's gonna take a while, however, since tomorrow will be a stream day, the day after is going to be me going with my family since I haven't seen them in forever. I'm sorry about that, there's nothing I can really do about it. Monday should be the earliest I cover the Choose Your Legend banner. So, for those who really wonder which character I consider the best character to pull for the free summon, I guess I should already mention this here. And typically I don't really talk about this outside of the correct video, but to put it simply, I consider Eliwood to be the best. Not only because he's the best written character of the 4, but because he's also giving you a Beast Killer, literally one-shots Tybarn, which is one of the biggest eyesore of AR and Arena. He also gives you, in general, a very strong unit. One of the best Gale Force unit of this game. Fantastic speed, fantastic attack. Micaiah is solid, but the B skill she has is kind of irrelevant. 90% of the time you'll just be running a Versa instead of that B slot, so you can actually open that B slot for something else. And unless you really go on high merges, Micaiah is inconsistent. If you go on really high merges, you can actually make that speed she has workable, in which case you end up hitting very hard with what she has. And, you know, you have more bulk and everything. However, the other two, Camilla, the problem with Camilla is that Veronica is just overall better. Sorry, that's kind of just how it is. Gravity is a good stat, mind you, but it's not consistently helpful for most people. And the last one is Ulm. It's a sword infantry unit. I don't know what to tell you. As far as damage goes, the second that you're in Brazen with Ira, Ira actually surpasses her, or him rather, in damage. And the main set that Ulm can really run is a Brave Sword set, but his speed becomes too little, which is a bit awkward to go with. Frankly, Ulm is a decent unit, but the problem is that he's in an ocean of good units. Sword Infantry is just that oversaturated. Sorry. Still, I'd say Eliwood and Micaiah are the two choices you should consider. I definitely would suggest Eliwood unless you plan on really going high merges on Micaiah because you really like Micaiah. But at that point you'd probably just be using whichever character you really like, so, you know. Anyway, I think I'm going to leave it here, and hey, I'm gonna be seeing you guys tomorrow on the stream. Have a nice one, everyone. See ya.